Hi, I'm Lucas and this is my first camera equipment review on the channel here. Today I'm gonna review the Feiyu Tech AK2000 Gimbal. First of all, a big thanks to Feiyu Tech who sent me the gimbal so that I can test it out for you and review it. Okay, but let's start.
This is a case this device comes with. The case itself is pretty stable and made out of solid styrofoam. If you open up the box, you can find a very well built steel mini tripod for the gimbal, a charging station for the batteries, the 4 batteries and a pretty big quick release plate which is also compatible with most other tripods on the market. Also there are 2 small boxes. In this one are 3 remote cables for Panasonic cameras, Sony and also Canon cameras. In the other small box you can find a lens holder which distributes the weight of heavy lenses to the quick release plate and 3 screws. And last but not least, there's the gimbal itself. If you first take the gimbal out, you will notice that the gimbal is pretty heavy with its 1.2 kilograms. Other gimbals like the Sine Crane M or the predecessor of the AK2000, the A1000 or 2000 are a bit lighter, but in daily use the heavier weight isn't that noticeable. Also you will recognize that the gimbal has a very well built quality. Everything is well fixed and also the clearances aren't big. The tripod is also very solid and stable. But one of these 3 legs in my opinion is a little too tight. That makes unfolding the tripod a bit uncomfortable. Balancing the gimbal should not be any problem if you did that sometimes before. It actually is like at every other gimbal on the market these days. Also all gimbal axes are easy to adjust, which makes the balancing process even easier. If you screw off this bottom cap here, you can see the battery compartment. 4 batteries with 2200 mAh each have to go inside. In my normal use with Wi-Fi turned on, the batteries held about 10 to 11 hours, which is compared to other gimbals an average long time. Charging the batteries in the charger takes about 3 hours. Also the charger has a micro USB port, so you can charge it also on power banks, which helps to stay flexible. On the gimbal you can find 3 1/4 inch threads where camera accessories like an external monitor, a microphone or phone can be attached to. Feiyu Tech also offers other accessories you can buy on their website, like a brushless follow focus motor or a carbon fiber extension for your gimbal. Also the gimbal is suitable for traveling because you can disassemble the gimbal into 2 separate parts, which makes stowing the gimbal in your luggage or your camera bag even more simple. The payload capacity of this gimbal is at 2.8 kilograms, so also bigger and heavier cameras can be used with it. For my use it was absolutely enough. I'm using the Panasonic Lumix G80 with it. Compatible with the gimbal are most Panasonic, Lumix, Canon and also Sony cameras. A list of all compatible cameras you can find on Feiyu Tech's website, which I've linked right down below in the video description. Another big advantage of the gimbal is the angled roll motor. That guarantees a clear view on the camera display. On other gimbals this isn't always the case. Also all motors can be rotated 360 degrees without limit, which is very great. This ability helps to create shots you won't even get with a limited rotation. The handle of the gimbal is rubberized and also pretty thick, which makes holding the gimbal very comfortable and easy. In my opinion, the stabilization of the AK2000 is very good. Bigger and also smaller shakes get well stabilized. I can definitely see an improving compared to the A1000 or 2000 gimbal. For example, the right and left movements have become much smoother than before. But of course you also have to keep in mind that the smoothness of the video also depends on you. The more you practice, that better will be the results at the end, like in this example. Also, if the gimbal isn't balanced that well, you can get some vibration in the video, like in this example. Now you will see some shots I've created with the AK2000 on my Ireland trip. I think the biggest advantage of the AK2000 is the new control system. You're now able to control the camera settings and the gimbal entirely over the buttons and the display. You can set camera parameters because the gimbal has built-in Wi-Fi, which could easily be connected with the camera. Requirements for the Wi-Fi function are that the camera also has Wi-Fi and is supported from the gimbal. But if you have a very similar camera to another one which is supported, the connection could work fine. I also used the Panasonic Lumix G80 camera, which isn't officially supported, but which is pretty similar to the supported Lumix GH4 camera. The display is the heart of the control system. It is 1.5 inch big and has a touchscreen. The brightness of it, such as the resolution, are both okay. Yes, you won't get a high resolution display, but the display offers everything you need until now. Feiyu Tech is, as far as I know, the first company which builds that big touchscreen display into their gimbal systems. When swiping to the right, you are able to set the brightness of your image and also the ISO for the camera. Swiping to the right a second time brings you to the white balance menu, where you can change the white balance of the image with several gimbal presets. With swiping to the left 2 times, you can back to the general overview, where you can see if a camera or phone is connected via Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, how much battery life left, which mode you're in, and what you're using the magic wheel for. When swiping to the right, you will see the options to set nearly every setting you can also set with the app. First option is the payload settings, where you can set payload presets or you can customize your own preset, which is good for your camera setup. The second option are the different capture modes. There are 3 different ones. The default mode, where the camera just follows every movement on a normal speed level. The smooth mode, which very smooth footage can be made with because of the higher dead zones, and also the action mode, where the gimbal reacts on every movement pretty fast and without any delay. The next option is the rotation time, where you can set parameters for the auto rotation. For example, how long the rotation should take for each axis and in which interval photos should be taken. The next option is called auto rotation. You use this to set the start and the end point of the rotation. After that, you confirm with OK and the gimbal automatically starts at the start position. With the auto rotation, you can achieve stunning shots. The next option is called the scroll setting option, where you can set, for example, the sensitivity of the magic wheel or the joystick. The last option is the setting option. There you can calibrate the gimbal or set either Chinese or English language. And yes, you heard right, there's also an app from Feiyu Tech which will be connected via Bluetooth with the gimbal. In the app you can also set nearly every parameter and also steer the gimbal movements with. The app is also used to set up the Wi-Fi on the gimbal with the camera. Another thing you can do in the app is updating the gimbal so that you have always the latest firmware updates and features. Also, the gimbal offers many buttons you can use to control the camera and the gimbal. In the front there are 4 buttons and a joystick. The joystick can be used to control the gimbal movements and also the navigation on the display. The top left button offers you the ability to change the gimbal movement mode. The HK mode is the standard mode. In this mode the gimbal is just following your movements horizontal. It's also the mode I'm shooting mostly with. The next mode is the TF mode, where the gimbal is following your horizontal and tilting movements. It's pretty good for shooting, for example, up on a building. The third mode is the AF mode, which stands for All Follow mode. In this mode, the gimbal is following your movements in all directions, and also in right and left directions the gimbal is following, which is not common on other gimbals. The fourth mode is the LK mode, which is also called lock mode. In this mode, the gimbal is locked and isn't following your directions. No matter how you move, the gimbal always stays focused on the same direction. The right top button has to be used for powering the gimbal off and on with a long press. With one press, it can activate the roll feature like in the All Follow mode, which sometimes makes really sense to use.
By triple pressing you get into the selfie mode, which makes sense for vloggers who often have to film themselves. The both bottom buttons are shutter release buttons for taking a photo on the left or for starting and stopping a video recording on the right. The button on the right of the gimbal is a lock button to lock the screen so that it doesn't react on any touches on the display anymore. The button on the back is a trigger button. By holding this button, the gimbal is following your movements like in the TF mode. By double pressing the button, the gimbal returns into its standard mode and position. The wheel on the left side of the gimbal is called a magic wheel, and it's really like magic. With this wheel you have the ability to control the movements a bit more sensitive than with the joystick or the app. Also, it can be used as a follow focus wheel or zoom control wheel with compatible cameras and lenses. Okay, so at the end let's come to the price point. This gimbal is always sold around 250 to 350 euros here in Europe, which are around $280 to $400. For this price point the gimbal is unbeatable. Other gimbals with same or less features often cost much more on the market. Summarized, this gimbal has its advantages definitely in the controlling feature with the touch display and the good handling, which no other gimbal can offer on a that good price point. Disadvantages are the unreliable 1/4 inch thread on the bottom of the gimbal, which in my case got damaged, and that the gimbal sometimes makes arbitrarily movements. Also, I would wish for further gimbals a splash water resistant so that I can also use the gimbal on rainy or wet destinations. As a facet, I can recommend this gimbal to semi-professional and professional users who are searching for a device with a good stabilization and many outstanding controlling features. Thank you very much for watching my first review video. I hope you liked it. If you have feedback for me or questions, please leave it in the comment section under the video. A big thanks again to Feiyu Tech who sent me the gimbal for a review. Also, Feiyu Tech's website is linked in the video description.